Welcome back over to the video. Today we are back for another NFL video. Today we're going to be going over all of the last minute trades. By last minute, I mean all the trades that went down on the final day of the NFL trade deadline, because this is probably one of the biggest trade deadlines in a while as far as all the trades that went on. So we have a lot to talk about, including the one you guys can all see on the screen right now and probably in the thumbnail. So we'll get into all that, but first be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Just helps grow the channel, and that way you don't miss any of my football videos, whether that be Madden on kind of video game format where we do no money spent, new content, gameplays, all that type of stuff, and then NFL videos like this where we do game picks, trade news, injury news, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of my content. First, I want to say I did not make this. I wish I did because it's very fitting, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but I thought it was pretty, just like I said, pretty fitting. It's going to be there while I talk, but we have other things to talk about first, and including that is the Lions and Vikings trade. So the Vikings actually sent the Lions a 2023 second round pick and a 2024 third round pick in exchange, among other picks, which we'll go over in just a second. The Lions did give the Vikings their starting tight end, TJ Hawkins, which is a huge addition to this Vikings offense that's already very, very good. Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, and that's, I think, majority of the offensive players. Irv Smith as well, but he's injured, which is why they actually went out and traded for TJ Hawkinson. So I think this is a very, very good trade for the Vikings especially. And real quick for the Lions part, they did get a 2023 second round pick, which is very, very solid. I mean, I think at this point everyone knows that obviously you want the first and second round picks. But at this point, it really doesn't matter where players drafted, because there are first overall picks that are terrible and there are seventh round picks that are amazing. So it really just depends on how you draft. But obviously, you do want the higher overall picks, which the Lions did successfully do. I think a 2023 second round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick are actually a pretty solid kind of exchange there for Hawkinson. Now, the Lions, along with TJ Hawkinson, did also give the Vikings a 2023 fourth round pick and I believe another fourth round pick, but I think it's conditional. I'm not sure the conditions of that at all, but a for sure fourth round pick in 2023. Overall, picks aside, I think the biggest thing is Hawkinson, and I think it's just a great addition for the Vikings. The Lions, he was great in the Lions, but honestly, the picks that got back, they can use to continue building around their fairly young team, especially on offense. And as for the Vikings, I think they're just going all in on this kind of playoff, even Super Bowl push, which I think at this point, it's pretty clear they're made the playoffs. I believe they're the only team actually over 500 in their division, which is like crazy because it's Aaron Rodgers in there, which is just weird. The times are changing, but yeah, so Vikings are leading that. I think this trade just shows even more how they are super committed to the playoff run. The next trade is fairly simple. The Bears traded the Steelers a second round pick, and in exchange, they got Chase Claypool, which I actually like this trade a lot. I don't think Claypool is worth a second round pick, at least in my opinion. I think he's more of like a third or fourth round pick. But, I guess that works out for the Steelers. But for the Bears, this does open up the field a little bit for Fields, because it gives Fields two actual solid options, being Mooney and Chase Claypool, which also opens up the run game as well. And obviously, whether it's the running back or Fields, he's not afraid to run it either. So I think it actually is a pretty good trade for the Bears. It's going to kind of show what Fields can do with stronger pieces around him, because he really doesn't have that really like strong wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 type thing. So hopefully this provides him more security as far as reliable players that can actually catch the ball. Because Claypool gets clowned on a little bit, and I guess sometimes well-deserved, but he is actually a pretty decent young player, or at least he was before. Hopefully he's not falling off. So we'll see how this actually impacts his play, although I do think it will definitely help Fields, who is really just kind of giving his all, and he's honestly progressed a lot over the course of just this year as well. And then as for the Steelers getting a second round pick, you can't complain. I think they I wouldn't say fleece, but they got a good deal on Claypool, and I mean, we'll just wait and see what that second round pick turns into. And then in the trade everybody's talking about, which is the Bradley Chubb trade, and it's, everywhere people talking about it on the screen, on the thumbnail. So this is, I would say, probably the biggest trade as far as the kind of last day deadline goes. I think Roquan Smith to the Ravens was also a really big deal. And then obviously, CMC going to the 49ers. But we're talking about just this day. I think this is probably the biggest trade that really did happen. So Miami, they did get Bradley Chubb along with, I think, a fifth round pick or something like that. And then Denver got a 2023 first round pick belonging to San Francisco, along with Chase Edmonds and a 2024 fourth round pick, which is a lot to take in, but picks aside, we'll break it down a bit easier. So as far as players go, Miami gets Bradley Chubb, and then Denver gets Chase Edmonds. And as far as the really important picks go, Denver also gets a first round pick in 2023 belonging to San Francisco. The rest is a fourth and a fifth round pick, so if it helps you to simplify, just think of it like the first round pick and the two players. But now to talk about how he fits into this Dolphins team. I think the Dolphins made a really good trade here, honestly. I think it's worth that pick. I think he's going to be a huge piece on defense. That's why I really like this graphic up on the screen, because I think it's very fitting for how they have a very solid team. I mean, offense is just, unbelievable. And their defense isn't bad either, but getting a huge pass rush like this for the defensive line is going to really, really take some weight off the secondary when they can start pressuring the quarterback, sacking him, forcing into bad throws, all that type of stuff. So I think it's going to make a big, big difference. I'm not sure if everybody sees it that way or, what's going on, just my opinion. But I think this is a great trade. I think really for both sides as well. Denver obviously getting the pick back, I think could turn out really well for them if they draft well, which, kind of depends. But I think overall it is a very good trade, especially for the Dolphins trying to make this playoff push. And then the next trade, which is also the Dolphins, they got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers as their new running back, and they trade away a 2023 fifth-round pick. So I think it's a pretty solid trade. It gives them some depth at running back, especially since they trade away Chase Edmonds. So I think it's a solid trade, nothing really crazy compared to what we just talked about. However, here's a really interesting one. So the Falcons trade away Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars. And if you don't know, Calvin Ridley is suspended for the entire 2022 to 2023 season for gambling on games that he was not playing in. But, whether you think it's right or wrong, I'll let that up, let you decide on that one. But he is suspended for all of this year. So next year he will be able to return, or maybe they change his punishment. I'm not really sure how that works. But for sure, next year is when he will be returning, which is really interesting to me because the Jaguars have some, solid receivers. They have, Marvin Jones. They have Christian Kirk, who I think is a very, very good receiver. And they have Evan Ingram as well as their tight end. So I think adding Calvin Ridley, as long as he comes back and keeps doing what he was doing, he was a very good receiver before he just got suspended. He was just really the whole passing kind of game for the Falcons as far as receptions go. So giving Trevor Lawrence a much better wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 type player, I think might really help him out because I like Trevor Lawrence, but I feel like sometimes people want him to be a lot better than what he really is at this point. Not saying he won't be able to get to that point ever, but how he's playing right now is just probably not where he should be. Whether, you can blame Urban Meyer for that and that entire horrific first year, which does play into it, and it is a solid reasoning. But at this point, and this season, we would probably hope to see him further along. So getting Calvin Ridley like this might be another huge step that Trevor really needs as far as players around him goes. And so then I'm going to read this off. I'm not going to lie because I cannot remember all this. But the Falcons in exchange for Calvin Ridley, so they get a 2023 fifth-round pick. Nothing crazy. Then they get a conditional fourth-round pick, which is really interesting when you read the conditions of it. So obviously it kind of depends on how he plays because that's, the conditions. But it stays a 4 if Calvin Ridley is on the roster for the Jaguars. It goes to a 3 if Ridley reaches certain incentives. I don't know what those are. I'm not really sure if anybody does. But it can even become a 2 if the Jaguars extend Calvin Ridley to a contract extension. So I think this is really interesting because if he is a very good receiver for them, which I honestly think he will be, that pick could turn into a second round pick for the Falcons, which honestly might end up being a pretty good trade for them, honestly, because I think Ridley wanted out anyway before he got suspended. So I think it's a really interesting trade to watch. We'll have to see how he really fits into the offense next year, so it's going to be some waiting. But I think this will kind of turn out to be one of those trades people look back on and be like, that's really interesting the way that kind of went down. The next trade is actually between the Colts and Bills. So the Colts, they got Zach Moss from the Bills in a 2023 sixth-round pick, and the Bills got Nyheim Hines, which is actually really, really good because the way the Bills' offense is they just find ways to get people open all the time because Josh Allen's amazing. The way their offense is done is just so fun to watch. And Nyheim Hines is a very, very good receiving back. I'm not sure if anybody saw the catch he made this past Sunday, kind of toward the out-of-bounds line. It was a really good catch for a running back. So I think he's honestly going to really thrive in the Bills' offense. And I think that's really an A trade, honestly, for the Bills. Another trade still involving the Bills is actually they traded for Dean Marlowe from the Falcons. Not a lot to talk about, just give them some more depth at the safety position, especially because Micah Hyde's hurt and out for the entire season. So pretty solid, but nothing crazy to talk about there. And then the final trade we're going to talk about is actually the Steelers. They got William Jackson III and I believe a conditional 7th-round pick. And the Commanders got a 2024, 2023, fifth-round pick. I just checked. That's really funny. I was way off. It's a 2025 conditional 6th-round pick. So that's a lot different, obviously. But, William Jackson's kind of struggled especially with Washington. Although it might be the system. I think he was even saying he doesn't like the system that he's in. So maybe he'll be a lot better for the Steelers. The Steelers are a little light as far as corners go. So maybe he'll give them some good depth there. And even get them some pretty valuable minutes. I'm not really sure. It'll be interesting to see how this goes out. But that's pretty much all the trades we're going to talk about today. So if you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe button for more videos like this. As the season goes on, as we get closer to the playoffs, just gonna be more videos talking about kind of week by week stuff. We're back to game picks. I did have to take a bit of a break. I was out of town, all this kind of stuff, but we're back on to, like, daily uploads now. And I've missed the past several weeks as far as game picks go, so I promise this week I will get those out. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.